It's Friday, so it's time for our agile, not so agile episode of the Daily Stand Up Podcast. And as always, I have a story to start things off because I always like to start that way. Lena was the kind of person who could organize a project, a pantry, a party with military precision, but she could not organize her courage. At work, she was reliable, steady, always the one staying late to fix last minute mistakes. Her boss trusted her, her teammates liked her, and her performance reviews were consistently stamped with the same phrase solid team player. It was meant as a compliment, but every time she saw it, a small restless ache formed behind her ribs. Because tucked between the color coded spreadsheets and carefully labeled folders was a sketchbook she never showed anyone. Lena drew in the margins of meeting notes. She sketched on napkins at lunch. She had ideas for children's books, a mental library of characters and worlds that lived only in her head and in the worn pages of that sketchbook. For years, she told herself a quiet story. One day, when things calm down, I'll really give this a try. The problem is things never calm down. One Thursday, after a long meeting, she dropped her notebook on a desk and it fell open. Pages spilling out. A coworker walked by and noticed the drawings of a small, determined fox wearing a too big backpack. Whoa, he said, picking up the notebook. You drew this? Lena's first instinct was to grab it back and laugh it off. Oh, it's nothing. Just doodles. But he lingered on a drawing. This is actually really good. Have you ever thought about doing something with them? The question made her heart race and her stomach sink at the same time. She had thought about it a lot. She just hadn't done anything. She shrugged, offered a vague maybe someday, and changed the subject. That night, sitting on the edge of her bed, Lena heard a sentence in her mind that she couldn't shake. How much longer are you going to call the things that matter to you nothing? It wasn't a dramatic movie moment. There was no soundtrack, no lighting, no lighting change, no lightning bolt of clarity, just a quiet discomfort that felt different this time. Not like shame, but like an invitation to do something more. She opened her sketchbook and flipped through the pages. There were dozens of characters: brave foxes, shy turtles, anxious owls, adventurous kids. She noticed something she'd never put into words before. Almost every drawing was about someone who underestimated themselves and discovered that they were capable of so much more. The realization startled her. Was the drawing of them, or was she actually drawing herself? For the first time, instead of asking, why haven't I done more by now, she asked a different question. What is the smallest, kindest step I could take that moves this from a fantasy towards reality? The answer wasn't quit your job or write a whole new book. It was a simple share one drawing. The thought made her palms sweat. Share her art online where people could see it and judge it or scroll past it? She set a tiny rule for herself. She would post one drawing a week for a month. No big announcement. No, I'm finally pursuing my dream speech. Just a small, consistent proof to herself that she was allowed to take up space as someone who makes things and not just someone who organizes things. The first week, she took a deep breath, took a photo of a little fox with a too big backpack, and posted it with a simple caption, trying something new. She set her phone down and walked away, fully prepared for silence or worse, for her own embarrassment. When she checked later, there were a few likes, a comment from a friend saying, Lena, I didn't know you drew. This is adorable. And a message from a former classmate who wrote, my daughter would love this. Have you ever thought about writing a children's story? Her entire world didn't change, but something inside her tilted a few degrees. Week after week, she kept the promise to herself. Some drawings got attention, some barely any. The important part wasn't the reaction, it was the repetition. Each post was a small vote for a new identity. I am someone who makes and shares my work. Along the way, something unexpected happened. She started to notice the voice in her head that always said, you're not that kind of person. You're not brave. You're not creative enough. You're not interesting. That voice still spoke up, but now there was another one, quiet at first but growing, saying, actually, look at what you've already accomplished. One evening, a message popped up from a local teacher. Hi, I found your drawing through a friend. Our class is doing a project on courage. Would you ever consider visiting to talk about how you create your characters? Lena laughed out loud. Talk to kids about courage? She felt like the least qualified person on the planet. She almost typed, I think you have the wrong person. but her hands stilled above the keyboard and her eyes landed on a fox drawing pinned above the desk. The fox with a backpack that was obviously too big, still moving forward anyway. She heard the familiar sentence, "What is the smallest kind of step I could take towards growth, even if I'm scared?" And she replied, "I'm nervous, but I'd love to." On the day of her visit, she stood in front of 20 second graders with her sketchbook in hand. Her voice shook a little as she started, but the kids didn't care. They sat cross-legged, eyes wide open, completely absorbed. She told them about the characters and how she sometimes hesitated to share her work. One child raised his hand and asked, "Were you scared people would not like your drawings?" "Yes," she answered honestly, "but I realized something every time I shared one. Even if only a few people saw it, I got a little braver. Fear didn't go away, but I got stronger than the fear." A little girl in the front row whispered to her friend, "I want to be brave like that with my singing." In that moment, Lena understood something that she'd never fully seen before. Growth isn't a sudden transformation into a fearless person. It's a series of small, awkward, honest choices that stretch us just enough to show us we're capable of more than we thought. On the bus ride home, she looked out the window and felt a deep, quiet pride, not because she'd made it, but because she finally stopped waiting for confidence to appear before she started. Instead, she let her confidence grow out of what she repeatedly did. Over the next year, she kept drawing, kept posting, kept saying modest yes to slightly bigger invitations, an online challenge, a small local art fair, a collaboration with a teacher to turn a fox into a classroom poster about courage. None of this made national headlines, but all of it changed her. Her job title at work was still the same, but the way she saw herself was different. She wasn't just a solid team player anymore. She was a creator, a learner, and a person capable of change. One night, flipping through her now thick sketchbook, she noticed that her characters had grown too. The fox stood a little taller. The shy turtle had taken a few steps closer to the water. The anxious owls had friends perched beside it. Lena smiled and thought, "Of course they changed, because I did too." She wrote a sentence at the bottom of the last page. Growth is not becoming someone different. It's becoming more fully aware of who you actually are. Have you ever stopped to think about who you actually are and the value that you provide? I promise you that you're worth it. And I promise you that you have something that you can share that's bigger than life itself. I promise you that whether you realize it or not, that there's something that you're good at, that you have a talent, a quality, something that the world can learn from you. And my challenge for you is to dig in and find it. Because when you do, your mission will change the world. That's going to do it for this episode. I hope you have an amazing weekend. And until next Monday, stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Do take care. Bye now.